The world had seen disasters before. Eruptions that darkened the sky, oceans that swallowed entire continents, and meteors that carved scars across its surface. But nothing in Earth's long and complicated history compared to the night when everything changed in a single, terrifying moment. A night when temperatures plunged without warning, winds turned to icy blades, and life felt the first shock of a catastrophe no one saw coming. It was the night the world froze. Not gradually, not over centuries, but almost overnight. This story doesn't begin with snowfall. It begins with silence. In the hours before the freeze, Earth was alive with its usual rhythms, waves rising and collapsing, forests swaying under warm winds, and the sky glowing with a golden sunset. Animals moved through their territories without sensing anything unusual. Even humans, scattered across early civilizations, looked toward the horizon with no fear, unaware that the air around them was about to turn deadly. But high above the planet, beyond the thin blue shell of atmosphere, a cosmic event had already begun unfolding. A massive cloud of microscopic space debris, so cold it made Antarctica seem warm, was drifting silently toward Earth. It wasn't a meteor that would explode on impact, and it wasn't an asteroid that could be tracked. It was something far more subtle and far more dangerous. A veil of ultrafine cosmic dust capable of blocking sunlight in minutes. For months, maybe even years, this cloud had been moving through the solar system, invisible to early astronomers, and now Earth was on a direct collision course with it. The first sign appeared in the northern sky. The auroras intensified, shifting from the normal green and purple hues to deep, unnatural blues. They pulsed like a heartbeat. Animals reacted first. Birds refused to take flight. Wolves howled endlessly at the glowing horizon. Even the ocean seemed unsettled, tides rising higher than expected, currents slowing as if holding their breath. Then came the light. Not the warm glow of dawn, but a dimming, as if someone had placed a thin curtain between the sun and Earth. Within minutes, that curtain thickened. People looked up in confusion as the sunlight turned pale, almost silver, spreading a coldness across the land. Shadows sharpened, colors faded, the warmth of day evaporated. Within the first hour, temperatures dropped by 5 degrees. Nothing alarming, but enough for scientists to notice something was wrong. But before warnings could spread, the second, far more deadly phase began. The cosmic dust cloud fully enveloped the planet. Sunlight didn't just dim, it vanished. It was supposed to be midday, but it looked like dusk. Birds abandoned their patterns, flying in chaotic spirals before collapsing from exhaustion. Plants reacted instantly, their leaves curling inward, sensing nightfall when it wasn't night at all. Across open fields, frost began forming directly on grass blades at noon. Water troughs for livestock developed thin sheets of ice. People rubbed their arms, confused, pulling garments tighter around their bodies. Then, in less than 1 hour, temperature dropped another 15 degrees. The freeze had begun. Wind patterns collapsed, jet streams destabilized. The atmosphere, deprived of sunlight, started cooling at an unnatural rate. Ocean surfaces began forming slush, a phenomenon that should require weeks of consistent cold, not a single afternoon. Snow started falling where snow had never fallen before. By the 4th hour, panic spread across villages and early towns. Fires were lit everywhere, but even flames seemed weaker, as if struggling against the freezing air. Animals fled instinctively, running in herds toward lower valleys, desperate to find warmth. But there was no warmth left. By nightfall, if it could still be called night, Earth was locked in a deep freeze. Rivers hardened into solid sheets, lakes turned into crystal mirrors. Even the breath of living creatures turned to powdery frost instantly. Vegetation withered, crops froze solid, entire ecosystems collapsed in one night. Humans tried to survive the cold by huddling in caves, houses, and under animal skins, but nothing could prepare them for what came next. The temperature drop didn't stop. Within 12 hours of the cosmic dust cloud arrival, Earth's surface cooled so rapidly that atmospheric moisture turned into diamond-like ice crystals hovering in the air. Anyone breathing too deeply felt their lungs burn from the sudden chill. Even the oceans, with their immense thermal capacity, could not resist the freeze. Large sections of coastline froze outward, expanding thin ice sheets across the water. Fish became trapped. Marine predators found themselves immobilized. The world's great forests, lungs of the planet, became frozen sculptures. And yet, strangely, the planet did not die. Something else began happening beneath the ice. Something unexpected, something that would change life on Earth forever. In the depths of the oceans, where freezing temperatures could not fully reach, strange forms of life adapted with astonishing speed. Bacteria and microorganisms developed new survival strategies. Some began producing antifreeze-like chemicals within their cells. Others formed early communal colonies, sharing heat and nutrients. For the first time in Earth's history, life was forced to evolve not because of slow change, but because of sudden catastrophe. This overnight freeze would become one of the greatest turning points in the planet's story, an event that nearly ended everything, yet ultimately shaped the evolution of the world as we know it. And this is only the beginning. Underneath the frozen surface, where cold couldn't fully reach, Earth was quietly preparing its comeback. While the upper world entered a still, silent, icy tomb, the deep layers of the planet remained alive, barely, but alive enough to matter. In the dark oceans, hydrothermal vents, towering chimneys of scalding mineral-rich water, continued releasing heat. Around these vents, life gathered like refugees around a fire. Strange worm-like organisms wrapped themselves near the heat plumes, while early crustacean species hid in cracks and crevices, surviving on the faint chemical energy the vents provided. If the surface world was dying, the deep sea was stubbornly refusing to surrender. Humans, too, fought the cold any way they could. Entire communities collapsed into shelters built from stone, wood, and animal hide. Fires burned constantly, but the fuel supply was running out fast. People huddled together not for comfort, but to share body heat. A single night of exposure meant certain death. Villagers learned to insulate their homes with thick layers of mud and straw. Hunters ventured farther each day in search of food, often returning with frostbitten limbs. The world they had known, green forests, flowing rivers, warm winds, felt like a distant memory. And yet, even in this frozen landscape, human resilience shone. They crafted tools specifically to cut ice. They used glowing embers sealed in clay containers as portable heaters. They discovered that certain tree resins burned longer and hotter than wood. The freeze tried to erase humanity, but humanity responded with creativity born from desperation. Still, the cold deepened. 2 weeks after the cosmic dust cloud enveloped Earth, temperatures reached levels not seen since the planet's earliest ice ages. Glaciers expanded at an unnatural speed, pushing through valleys and grinding forests beneath them. Entire mountain ranges began accumulating snowcaps so heavy that avalanches thundered down like crashing walls. No one understood how long this eternal night would last. No one knew what triggered it. Every sunrise, if it could still be called sunrise, looked exactly the same as the day before. Dim, cold, lifeless.
But deep beneath the frozen skies, change was coming. Scientists in the future would eventually uncover the truth. The cosmic dust cloud couldn't remain around Earth forever. Slowly, very slowly, the planet was drifting through it, emerging back toward clearer space. Minute by minute, the sunlight was returning. Not enough to warm the world yet, but enough to begin weakening the ice's grip. The first signs of recovery were small. A thin crack appeared in a frozen river, so thin it resembled the line from a blade. Yet this crack represented hope. Days later, the crack spread. Water beneath the ice started flowing again, pushing upward, trying to reclaim its place on the surface. In coastal regions, the oceans, though still frozen near the top, began moving underneath. Currents struggled but persevered.